the lesson.
Oh, yeah.
You then mentioned that a few years later in 2012 is when you dropped your first solo album.
Yes, yeah.
And one of the songs, I think one of the singles off that album was Deuce Deuce, and you did like a 7-inch for it.
Yep, Deuce Deuce, yep.
Now, I went back because there's the video to that single, and it's great tune, great video. A lot of people, I think, that I've spoken to look at that as, you know, one of the favorite Jake Biz songs, you know, for them.
Yeah.
And you had a line in there that was interesting that I'll quote. It says, "I'm from Brisbane where my DJ used to stick up servos."
Yeah.
And then after doing a little bit of research, correct me if I'm wrong, but your former DJ, he did 5 years behind that and then passed away due to a drug overdose?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Lops. Lops. Lops at a point in time was like a brother to me, a big brother. But you know, it's kind of like the relationship we had at various points in time. Loving. You could hate Lops one day, but that was what loving Lops was. You know, like Lops was a hard-headed dude, man, and he was my best friend. He was like one of my best friends. You know, he's like an older brother. He's 6-7 years older than me, but yeah, he did 5 years for stick-ups. I think he got 6, and he got out in 5.5 or something like that. And he he was a bad heroin addict as a kid, and you know, he did a number of years in and around that as well. Like he did 5 years solid for stick-ups, for the stick-ups he got caught for, and then he came out and he was clean for ages, man. He DJ'd. You know, he was DJing with us. He'd focused his energies. You know, he'd started hanging out with us because we just drink, you know, and he was a drinker too, you know, and then slowly post. So I'm just thinking about, I'm making commercial hell, like when I'm working on my album, he just started disappearing again. And, you know, we all kind of knew what was going on, but we were just hoping for the best, you know, and, it kind of got him, and then, man, I didn't see much of him for the final years, you know, like I remember my wife was real close with Lops too, like, you know, we were all real close, you know, we were all real close for a long time, and then, you know, just, man, like, we were talking about addiction before, man. I don't think any one addiction is different to the other, but heroin is a motherfucker, you know, like they say it's harder to get off than cigarettes, and man, I've been smoking for 25 years, like, you know, I know how hard that is, you know, so to get off smack, to get off heroin, you know, and he did well to kick it for as long as he did, but he went back to it, and then, it was kind of like the end of things. I don't know how much I should say. Well, I mean, you know, like Lops is gone. Lops was never ashamed of it, you know, like I remember saying to him once, I was like, man, should I put this line in here? And he's like, fucking A, I'm not ashamed of it. I fucking, you know, I did my time, fucking blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, word, that's all good, you know, like Lops was, you know, you ask anyone, man, like Lops used to be, you know, like a lot of dudes, a lot of HG dudes, like broken tooth dudes, they'd stay with Lops when they came up, you know, he'd organise weed for dudes and shit like that, and he's a fucking good dude, man, like just a real, like a jail-sharpened wit, you would say, man. Like, he had a fucking, like, man, he was like that. Like, you know, like, he was a smart ass, you know, and he was a funny dude. But he was also a real raw dude, you know, like, he'd fucking, you know, the wrong person could take something Lops said. You could misconstrue it. Well, I wouldn't even say misconstrue. You could just fucking, Lops could offend a lot of people, and he could offend them easily, you know, and it, you know, almost landed dudes in a lot of fights and a lot of hot water and shit, you know, like he was, you know, he didn't give a fuck when he was full of piss, man, you know, and and unfortunately he kind of just gravitated back to it, man, you know, like that shit's a bitch. That shit is hard, man, and as someone said to me, man, heroin's different to everything else. Heroin's a sickness. You know, it's like you need that medicine, man. You wake up in the morning, you need it every fucking 7-8 hours, you know. I don't know it personally, man. It's never where I've gone, you know, like it's not something I've ever gone towards, but you know, like, and it got him in the end. And I only found out recently that it got him because I thought he was getting off it and that's what got him, but nah, it got him in the end, man. You know, like it's just, there's only so long you can live that life, and from what I was told, like I said, I was kind of estranged from Lops in the last maybe 4 or 5 years or something. You know, if we're talking about lines, I got a line on Pig City, on the song Pig City, where I said, same back it had to turn when my friend chose smack, you know, and it should be same back it hurt to turn when my friend chose smack, because it was like, you know, I remember going over there, I'd made some money off Commercial Hell and Deuce just selling that, and I was still chopping him out his money, knowing where it was going, you know, and then when we had to practice for the shows, I went over there once and, you know, like he had no electricity, so we paid to put his electricity on and get his internet back up and all that kind of shit, and, you know, it's just was what it was. You know, he's a brother to me. I fucking love Lops, you know, and I think about him a lot now. You know, I think about him a lot now, and I feel, you know, like, yeah, I feel some kind of ways about him, man. Like, it's sad, you know, like, and it's sad that, you know, you think maybe could you have stepped in more, but you just lose him, you know. It's kind of like he's gone, you know, but he was still, you know, he was sort of on the periphery of things. Like, he was hanging with people that I knew, or, you know, he'd sort of flutter in and out of circles and stuff, and, you know, like, I know some people that saw him towards the end, like in the last, you know, sort of last year or 6 months or whatever of his life, but yeah, it was sad, man. Like, it was sad, and that fucking, man, that H is something, you know, that gets him, man. It gets him, and it had him since he was a kid, you know. It was a battle he'd fought since he was Christ knows what age, but he was a fucking remarkable human being, you know, like, he was a dude, like, he was 16 years old, man, and he told his mum he was going to stay at a mate's place up the road. He jumped a train into town, then jumped a Greyhound bus to Sydney to watch Run DMC at the Hordern Pavilion in 1988. He's 16 years old. He's telling his mum he's going to stay up the road. Like, that's kind of the life Lops lived. He was adventurous, man. Like, he got out of jail. He got out. I think like 6 months after he got out, he was in France. He met a girl. Then travelled through Europe. He DJ'd through Europe, like, you know, that's when he first discovered DJing, and then came back to Australia, you know, like, he was a dude that could fucking do it, man. And he was a dude that just had the gift of the gab. You'd see him with chicks, bro. Like, you know, to look at, he mightn't have been much. Like, he was a tall, gangly, foul-mouthed dude covered in boob tattoos, like, you know, boob jobs, but fuck, he could just talk, man. You know, like, he's a remarkable dude, bro. A remarkable human being, and, yeah, I miss him, you know, like, he was a good DJ too. He was a good DJ, you know, that's kind of what gets forgotten in Lopsy's, you know, like, you know, what little people know of Lops, and I hope, you know, more people know of Lops, you know, via this kind of thing. And I've spoken about him on the podcast and shit, particularly after he died. I remember it was Jigsaw Jeff, we had Blunted Stylist, Jigsaw Jeff on the podcast, and I kind of dedicated the start of the show to him, so you could go find that episode and hear what I had to say about him on that, but yeah, it's fucked, you know, like, because this year, you know, 2022 is 10 years since Commercial Hell, and he was my DJ, you know, he DJ'd the entirety of Commercial Hell, but we started losing him at points through that. Like, he'd just disappear, man. I remember I wouldn't get a reply, and I'd go to his house, and I'd be like, man, is this cunt dead inside? We all knew what was going on, but we're just trying to keep him there, just trying to keep him in the mix, and all that kind of shit, and yeah, it's sad. It's sad, you know, like, it's just, it is what it is, but it's also, it's a sickness, man. Like, that fucking, you know, that needle, man, that heroin. It's a sickness, you know. Once it gets them, you know, and it's, you know, there's not a lot that come back from it, and if they do, they're fucking fucked, they've done well, man. You know, like, and he did on numerous occasions, you know. So he did well. He went through those withdrawals, and if you ask anyone about heroin withdrawals, like, man, they'll tell you it's fucking torture. You know, dudes, you know, like, I remember Lops telling me, laying naked on a jail cell floor, having out-of-body experiences, sweating, you know, because couldn't get a shot, you know, like, sometimes it's the only thing that gets them off them too, gets, you know, people off the smack. It's getting locked up, man, because you inevitably, like, man, it's a fucking hard thing. It's not like, you know, like we were talking about drugs and shit earlier, man, like, man, recreational drug use is recreational, you know, you say all things are, you know, all things okay in moderation, you know, but like, that sort of shit, when you need that medicine, when it becomes your medicine and you need it every 6-7 hours, well, how are you going to facilitate that life? It costs money, man, you know, and you can't work. I got him working with me at a point, like, I got him a job with me, because he didn't work for years. He was just slanging weed and getting the dole and doing whatever, and, you know, I got him a job with me, and he was turning up, man, like, he's turning up fucking, like, we'd be working and he'd have to sit down. And I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing, cunt? Like, get the fuck up, like, look at you. He goes, I wouldn't do that, Jake, I wouldn't do that to you. And I was like, man, you're fucking kidding yourself, bro, you know, like, and then, but, you know, like, he'd say to me, man, and this still sticks to me this day, he goes, what's the difference between this shit and that shit you shovel up your nose? And I'd be like, you know, and I'd have the, well, cunt, I didn't do 5 years over, I don't need to rob someone for it, I'm not doing it fucking every day, I'm not, you know, but like in the broader sense, in the long term, he's fucking not wrong, man. Like he's exactly right, dude, you know, like whether you're partying or whether you're fucking, you know, you're sitting on the fucking floor of a fucking crack den shoving a needle in your arm, like, man, like there's a lifestyle that goes along with both, you know, and they're both as destructive as one another, you know, like maybe heroin slightly more so, you know, you can get off other things, you know, you can kind of make other things recreational or whatever, but, you know, probably booze, you know, the booze and the smack are the hard ones, man. You have physical withdrawals, you have sickness from getting off them, you know, and it's fucked, you know, like, yeah. I miss him, I miss Lops, man. Rest in peace to Lops. DJ Lopsided, Daniel Klops, yeah.
The lesson. 927. Oh yeah.